Hi, today's session is going to be about beats. We're going to do a progressive set of exercises to make sure that you've got the sensation of what the beat is or turning up the blade, both for foil and sabre today, because the beats are really good for taking over priority for both of these weapons. To do this session, you need to have two blades. So whatever weapon you're using, have two foils or two sabres. Or if you don't have two weapons, what I use is sometimes a stick as a way of getting that feeling of making the beat. Now, it's obviously going to be a bit different for home training because you need to use two hands for these exercises. So one blade is going to be in your normal fencing hand, and the other one's going to be in your non-sword hand. So we're just going to start this session getting the feeling of how to use your non-sword hand for doing beats. Okay, so I'm going to do the first demonstration in sabre. So I've got my other sword in my other hand. So because it's sabre, you want to hold the weapon at a slight angle upwards. Okay, so as if emulating a more forward position sabre blade, which is basically what you're going to be doing in an actual fight. So if the opponent's got their sword coming forward, this is a perfect chance to do this beat action and take over priority. Or if your opponent is doing more defensive actions and you just want to deflect that blade, take over and dominate the action, then you're going to be doing beats. So we're going to be mainly doing beat attacks today rather than, say, beat counters. Okay, so get your non-sword hand weapon in the position in front of you. So the blade wants to be basically sort of coming towards the middle, but mainly on one side. So hold it quite naturally in that hand and relax. And then take your sabre. Now I like to hold my sabre in this tierce position so the tip is angulated inwards. So the tip of the sword is roughly where the middle of the head is, or even slightly more over, but not out like this. Okay, so this is going to make beats even more challenging because of the time it takes to actually do the movement. So the first exercise is just doing engagement. So an engagement is where you turn the cutting edge, so it's directed towards your intended target, and then just place it gently on it. Okay. So start turning the guard first and then just direct it in. I'm not moving my hand across. Okay, I'm not bringing it across like this, which is more going for a parry. It's mainly from the tip of the sword. So this means you're not opening up any big target on your forward hand. Okay. So you're not applying too much pressure. Pressure is different. Obviously, you can use engagement with pressure. All you're doing is trying to get an idea of where this position is and the technique of turning and placing. Okay, we're now to incorporate that into a hitting action with your dummy. So the first one is we're going to do it short distance. So get a good short distance, thrust distance, so you can just about hit the target with the top part of your blade without any movements of the body whatsoever. So you shouldn't have to do this. You shouldn't really have to reach out. So you want to be perfectly balanced in the on guard position and comfortably hit with a good cutting action. Okay. So the first is engage and then hit. So turn the guard, place the blade on your non-sword, your opponent's blade, and then just hit off it. Okay, so you feel that blade on that, you do it in one simple direct movement, stop before you have pressure, and then a really sharp cutting action towards the head. Okay, just leave your blade hovering slightly, so you're making the cut without bringing it back immediately. This would be a sort of mistake. Okay, so you're snatching at it. You want to be able to make sure that you've confirmed the cut and yet have control of the blade before resetting onto tierce position. Okay, so we're going to now evolve this into a beat action. So we're going to do the engagement first, and then a short, sharp, crisp strike with the cutting edge of your sabre on the forward part of the sabre, so not on the lower part, forward part of the sabre, and strike off it immediately. So you want to make that as short and as sharp as possible. Okay, so that'll be the beat. So engage first and beat. So engage and beat. So when you engage, now we get a feeling of where this position is, where the blade is in comparison to your blade. So you just want to lift that, the tip of your sword, using the fingers so it's not like this. Okay, and it's all forward. So you don't want to be bringing your hand back and striking. Again, this will slow you down and potentially lose priority. Okay, so engage slightly forward, beat hit. Okay, now I'm going to translate that to foil. So I'm going to swap my weapons over. So for foil, your other sword is not quite at an angulated position like sabre. It wants to be at a slightly soft angle, more natural to foil. Okay. Now this time I'm not. I'm turning the blade, as you can see with the markers on my foil. I'm turning the blade in to make contact. This engagement on my opponent's sword. Okay. Now because of the curvature of my sword, okay, that means the angle, the highest part of that sword is coming into contact. So I'm not moving my hand across to engage because this opens new target. I'm just making that contact. Okay, and now we can do the engage and beat hit using foil. Now with any beat engagement actions using conventional weapons such as sabre and foil, you've got to do it in the top 2/3 of the blade. So it's got to be, it's got to happen in this top 2/3. To be safe that the referee acknowledges it, you're safer to go for the top from halfway and above. Okay, if it's any hint that it might have hit lower down in the blade, in the bottom third, that would be deemed as a parry, and your opponent has the opportunity to has the priority and can hit you. Okay, so now we've got the engagement and beat hit in foil. Okay, so a lot of this, make sure you're well balanced, a good deep on guard position. You should be fairly even between your feet, and you shouldn't have too much movement at all. Just the arm is doing the action. Okay. Right, now we're going to evolve this to a lunge distance. So now you've got your balance and the technique using the two blades. We're going to use this at lunge distance. So take probably one more step back. Just test the distance of the lunge so it comfortably happens with a good curvature of the blade, if it's foil or in épée, and you can comfortably hit without leaning the body. Okay. So this is where you, when you do the beat or the engagement, okay, that again, there's no forward motion. You're not leaning in because this means it shifts the balance to your front leg and it makes the lunge quite challenging. Okay, what I like to do when I'm doing lunge actions is slightly move the balance on my foot towards the heel. Okay, so I'll make the toe slightly light. I haven't got it lifted up, but I just make it just slightly light, and this helps the front leg escape much easier, and you're not using your hip on knee at all. Now we're using the engage and beat with lunge at lunge distance. Okay, swapping over for sabre. Again, reset my distance so I can comfortably lunge to head. Okay, you can obviously beat and direct your actions to any of the targets, but just for initial session, just go straight to head. Okay, so same thing. So angulate your blade more for sabre. Angulate then your fencing sword, so turn it in so it's the cutting edge that's making the beat and not the flat. This is really important. If you use the flat of the blade, so you're slapping it with the side, this makes the blade slightly more harder to control because with the cutting edge, the way the metal works, it will be more accurate. If you use the edge, it's quite bouncy and it's going to be quite difficult to be direct it much quicker afterwards. So get into the habit of turning that blade so it's the cutting edge making the beat. Now you can start moving your hand a little bit more forward. So once you've got the idea of turning, because you want to be able to do the beat quite forward in the action. So you're actually extending and then turning and hitting. Okay, so this gives the time between the beat and the hit much shorter. It's really difficult to parry a well-executed beat. And this is part of getting that timing just right. And obviously with sabre, it's really important to make the hit and the land of the foot at the right time. If you can make the hit before the land of the foot, great, but never have the foot landing before the hit, otherwise you're falling short. Okay, so get that really short and sharp, okay, and avoid leaning in, so don't shift that hip forward and then it's going to be difficult to get a quick lunge of it. Okay, do a minute of this exercise, so reach forward and always come back into tierce position. Now what you do with the other hand, just leave it there hanging. Make sure it's, it's out of the way and it's not going to interfere with your actual cutting action. Okay, same with the foil. So get your dummy foil in your non-sword hand. Engage the center of the most curved part of your blade by turning your hand wrist like this. Okay, so you're really trying to compress that time between the beat and the hits. Okay, so we're going to evolve this so we're increasing the distance because this is all short, medium distance. So we're going to be doing these beat attacks using footwork, more footwork, using step forward lunge actions. But the beat is usually delivered on the final beat in lunge distance. But you've got to get into the distance before you can do the beat. So you'll be stepping in, beating, and then lunging. Okay, so you just want to coordinate the beat and the step. Now we would, to get that timing of the beat and then the lunge, the beat wants to happen with the finish of the back leg. Okay, so this requires some quite disciplined, short, crisp footwork. Okay, so sometimes it looks a bit like if you were taught quite traditionally that you would land front foot, back foot at the same time. So this is a very foundation building piece of footwork, but it really helps with regards to the balance of when you do the beat. Okay, because when you're stepping, in a way you're inviting, you're getting into distance. When you make the beat, it happens on the back foot. So just practice this very classical step. So step and then just step back. Okay, so the front foot goes forward, lands on the heel, the back foot closes, and then they all land together. Okay, so make this as natural as possible. And again, that body shouldn't be going forward. Okay, so now you've got that bit of footwork practice. I want you to get the coordination of the feet, that back foot, and now the beat. Okay, we're not going to do the engage now. I want you to just get used to this beat. So start the step. And when that back foot lands nice and sharply, that's when the beat happens. And then just reset back into your normal on guard position. So you're trying to get one sound. Okay, so I'll do it from a different angle. Okay, I'll just swap over to a different weapon. So the turn of the guard in sabre, the guard gives your opponent a lot of information in what you're doing. So you want to be not looking for it at the start. If you're starting to look for it before the step, as you're preparing to do the beat, if you're doing anything during preparation, your opponent's going to basically use this as information for them, and then they can react to it, and you're off balance while you're stepping. So it's really, getting that coordination. So I'm starting, and then I turn just at the moment my front foot. So the coordination, that is quite challenging. Now, if you want to start, as you start, and then reach forward, so you're definitely hitting higher up on your opponent's blade. Okay, so we need to make this into a step forward lunge. Okay, so this time you want to make sure you're in a good distance, a step forward lunge distance for you. So if you're working at home, these are great exercises, because usually you can find step forward lunge space within your home. So it's the same principle. Start, break it down, and then build up the fluidity. So that's really broken down to its mechanical sense. So it's unnatural to a real fight. So now it's your challenge to smooth that down. So some of the mistakes that can happen, because it's going to be speeded up, because you're going to be going faster, which is the natural speed within a fight, what happens is your body starts to go forward a bit too, and it goes off balance. And this makes it really difficult, and you start telegraphing what you're doing really easy. And your opponent can obviously, if you're looking for a beat, they can do a disengage as a counteraction. Okay, so make sure you really break it down and build it up so it's smoother and faster. So I've made the first step slower, then I accelerate into the beat. So in terms of footwork, it's slow back. And as soon as my back foot lands, I'm making the beat. I've confirmed it in my head, and this is a really important part of the system, is you're getting that tactile feeling that you've been successful in the beat. Yeah, and that your senses are so important when you're doing beat engagement actions. in your hand and in your ears. Because if you obviously don't make the beat, you've lost priority at that immediate time. And because you've lost priority, you're getting close. You're also going forward. So it's so important to have that balance at the start. So if you do miss the beat, you're almost set up to do the second intention para riposte or do a para riposte because the beat was not successful. So having this balance on the step is crucial. So concentrate on the balance of the step, go slow, and then the crispness of your feet, and the beat, and then the hit. Concentrate that for, try and do at least a minute and improve each time. And obviously with foil, same thing. So from a different angle. So again, it's on guard, get your feeling right. So you acknowledge that this is your opponent's blade, and that when you're stepping forward, that the blades are starting to overlap and this action is possible. Yeah. Okay, once you've got this feeling at this crucial distance of step lunge, you've smoothed it out, you've shortened the time between the beat and the lunge, your distance and rhythm is improved, so slow into fast acceleration. And obviously the distance of your lunge, so it's always consistent and you're not getting too close because the tempo is increased. Now we can add a little bit of challenge in terms of the coordination. And this is why I like to do these little prep steps. So we can do, because of limited space at home, I like to do little prep steps. So sometimes you can just step in place. Okay, so you're keeping your feet nice and light and constantly moving. Or you can add little more steps, little half steps, whatever you want to do to help the intensity of it. And then do the step forward and beat lunge. So it's like you're making the decision to do this attack. Now with home training, avoid just thinking this is a dummy, an inanimate object. Yes, reality is. But always think that when we're backing ourselves, that this is a real person with real mind, okay? So at the moment it's static, it's not going to go anywhere. But in reality, with an opponent, they can obviously do stuff with their blade, they can change distance, they can attack you, okay? So always be conscious to make this as real feeling as possible. So it's more real training than just perfunctory. So you're translating what's going on technically in your head to actually using the psychology on your opponent. Okay, so same for sabre. So obviously with sabre, backward and forward movements are slightly unconventional, because with sabre, going backwards means you lose priority. So I quite like to keep a sort of static, ready position, as if nobody's making a decision. and then you can just take up this attack. You can even maybe do some Korean hops if you want to get creative. Okay, so I'm just keeping nice and low. When I'm ready to go, I'll take my step. So you can certainly add on to that. You can start doing some direct attacks. So if you want to do the same to make a bit of variety, so you're going from direct to beat. Okay. Now with beats, these beats are from sabre turns from cart or tierce position over to cart position. Okay, so we're doing cart beat. For foil, we're going in the six, natural six on guard position, again doing a cart beat. Now beats can come in different varieties and different positions, depending on which side of the blade you want to go for. So if you've got left and opposite-handed fencing, it might be more useful to do a different type of beat. So obviously you can do this with a system. So if you want to go to hit the other side of the blade, so rather than going in this direction, we can go underneath the blade, engage it to get that feeling, and then we can do the beat and then hit. So we have to do this sort of circular movement with the tip of our sword. So if you want to progress it to different types of beat, that's great. For sabre, you can go into circular teeth, so get your blade like this. So you drop in the tip. Now with this, you can use a back beat, using the back of the blade rather than using the forward edge. Okay, so you can add a bit of variety to your training, and the complexity is going to increase as well, keep you interested. Okay, I did allude on the next final phase of this session. So what I tend to do is work a minute each on those progressions. The next phase is going to be where second intention comes in. So second intention is you're looking as if you're doing a certain action. So looking as if you're going to do the beat. But actually you're planting a seed for your opponent to think that that's what you're doing, but you do something else. Okay, so you're setting them up for a bit of a trick. So you can still do second intention para post within this system. So there's just a few small adjustments, but the foundation with your footwork is now set, it's the same. Because with any second intention action, it needs to look like what it was supposed to do. So if you deviate from that, if you change it, your opponent's going to understand that you've changed and they won't follow your rules. Okay. So the second intention is where you look for the beats possibly too early. You're showing that you're moving your blade to try and be offensive to their blade. So this is where when you make the step, so you are looking for the blade when you're making the step, but when you finish the step, you're finishing a parry position. So it's like I'm looking for the blade, but then I take a parry in the line that they would have disengaged to. So I'm looking, and then I finish the step in my tierce parry position if it's sabre. For foil, I'm looking, but then I finish in the six parry. Okay, it looks like you're looking and they're going to disengage to the low line. Or if you can go look for foil, you can look for the beat. And if they go in low line, you can do a second of some sort. So it depends where they're potentially going to be looking towards as a disengage. So you can mix this up now with the system that we've got. So start again with the step lunge, step beat lunge. to make that perfect. And now add the element of where you step early, you step and look early, finish with a parry and riposte. And change the timing of it, you know, try and imagine yourself, you're looking for it. So, because this is a preparation. So you're going to be actually looking to make sure your opponent's falling for the trick, because if you're just doing this and they continue to do something else, it's not going to work, and you're moving forward, so you're closing distance at a very vulnerable time. So look, finish with that back foot. So forward parries generally finish with the back foot. Backward parries finish with the front foot. Okay, so mix it up. With foil. With foil, you want to be getting a little bit of opposition in. This is why that balance on the step allows you to complete this parry much easier. You're not getting too close to your opponent's attacking blade, basically. Okay, that's our sequence for this session for beats. I hope you enjoyed it. Please engage with fencing at home and find out all our other sessions that are available.